Hi everybody and welcome to Let's Play Moonlight Walks on the Linux. And this game is apparently a story driven, not sure exactly what is it, but it's story driven adventure game. I think it's Japanese of some sort. My name is Gaber, by the way. I'm bad at creating names, so I thought it would be funny if I combined my true Hungarian name with something that's totally made up. Something like Gaber. It's only one letter different from my original Hungarian name, and it kind of correlates with the word gamer, Gaber. And there's also a guy who supports Linux very much from Valve, Gaben. So, okay. Anyway, let's play Moonlight Walks. I'm not sure what I'm dropping myself into. Okay, all right. It was the summer before I started college. I had spent the past 2 years studying, taking tests, and applying for admission. Now, for the first time in a while, I had a little downtime, so I decided to take the opportunity to explore America. But, since I was broke, my plans were quickly scaled down to spending the summer at my aunt and uncle's house on a small island known as the North Sand Island. North Sand Island was a barrier island in the Atlantic Ocean. It was remote enough that there wasn't even a bridge to it, just a ferry that ran a few times a day. That's creepy. Being such a small island, there wasn't all that much to do, but the solitude was nice and I found ways to pass the time. One thing I did was to take pictures with my digital camera. On the night of the full moon, I decided that I wanted to capture the moonrise. Okay, this picture again, yeah. So I went out to the beach just before the moon came up, set up my camera on a tripod, and locked in the appropriate shutter speed and the f-stop. Okay. Every few seconds as the moon rose, I used the remote that came with my camera to snap another frame showing the moon and its reflection in the water. It only took a few minutes for the moon to rise over the horizon, but I kept it at it for a while longer. Finally, I was done. I started packing my camera and my tripod to get ready to head back to my aunt and uncle's house. That's when I first saw her. In the distance, I could see someone else walking down the beach. I could tell that it was probably a girl or a woman from the long white dress she wore, but from that distance it was hard to tell anything else about her. I decided to stay a bit to see who it was. In all the times I've gone out stargazing, I've never met anyone just walking down the beach in the middle of the night. At that late hour, most people were either at home or in a town with other people. You hardly ever saw people by themselves. That's creepy. The only time I have seen someone else on the beach at night would be when they are watching the stars or the satellites to go by. But those people stay still and look up the sky, while this girl was looking down at the ground in her front, watching where she was going. I ran through a number of crazy scenarios in my head. Maybe she had some disease that meant she couldn't be out in the sun. Maybe she was looking for a buried treasure. It only took me a few seconds to dismiss this. What was the chance of them actually happening? I waited for a while as she slowly made her way down the beach. I didn't think such a slow walk could be for exercise, but I had no idea what else she could be doing out there. Finally, she was close enough that I could get a look at her, using the telephoto lens on my camera. She was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. She was around my age, a year or two younger, or older at most, and in perfect shape. Her skin was flawless, if a bit pale, and her hair was very light, almost as white as the long dress she was wearing. Together, the combination of pale skin, light hair, and the white dress made her seem to glow in the moonlight. Okay, she was a fair ways off, and I was pretty sure that she hadn't seen me. I knew what it was I wanted to do. Okay. I knew that I wanted to take her picture. I knew that I needed to talk to her. Yeah, I needed to talk to her. As the girl was walking this way, I decided the best thing to do was to put my camera away and wait for her to come closer. I didn't want to scare her away by running towards her or to have to shout over the ocean waves. Hi. Okay. After I had patiently waited for what must have been 20 minutes, she was finally close enough that I could talk to her in a reasonable voice. That's some beautiful art, by the way. Hello. Maybe it wasn't the most eloquent of lines, but it was all I could think of at the time, and it got the job done. She stopped and looked at me as if waiting for me to say something else. It's a nice night. It's warm, but not really all that hot. Unlike you. She nodded at this, but didn't say anything. I finally decided to cut the chase and ask her the question on my mind. So, what are you doing out here? Walking. No shit. Alright. Just walking. In the middle of the night? Yes. Are you going anywhere in particular? I walk around the island following the beaches. I'm sorry, but there's only one beach. That is right here. Or? The island wasn't that big. I could go around it in a few hours, maybe a little more if I stopped for a break. I'd have no problems keeping up with her. Mind if I walk with you? If that's what you want. I decided that I'd bring my camera with me, but I hid my tripod in the bag in the dunes. This only took a few seconds and we quickly started walking down the beach. We walked in silence for a while until we could no longer see where we started. I looked back anyway and saw only our footprints breaking up in the sand of the beach. Pause for a second. I think he's a brutally diabolic murderer. Okay, back to the story. Walking was great, but I needed to try talking to this girl. I decided to see if I could find out why she was out at night. So, she stopped and looked at me. Is there a reason why we're walking down the beach at night? It's something to do. That's a pretty good point. I see. Do you do this often? It seems like I do this every day. Do you always walk alone, or do other people come with you? Usually I'm walking by myself, but once in a while I meet someone else and sometimes they decide to walk with me. Okay, this is starting to get creepy. It only happened a few times though, and I don't think that anyone has asked as many questions as you. I didn't know how to take this. We stood in silence for a second. Finally, she let out a small laugh, smiled, and took the initiative. What were you doing out here? I didn't think that she was interested in me, and so it took me a second to respond to her question. Seeing my hesitations, she elaborated. I think we both agree that it's rare to meet someone else out on the beach at this time of the night. So what were you doing there? It took me another second to think back to what I was doing, but I finally answered her. Alright, it's kind of hard to read this wall of text, so I have to take a pause. Okay. I'm into astronomy, well, stargazing, really. I was out taking digital photos of the moon as it rose. She looked at me questioningly as if she didn't know what I was talking about. I found that a little odd, as I thought everyone knew what a digital camera was. I decided to show her my camera, show her the moon. Okay, is she not aware of the moon right there? Anyway, show my camera. I decided the easiest way to explain was to show her some of the pictures I had taken. So I pulled my camera out of its case and turned it on. I switched it to displaying pictures and called out one of the last pictures I had taken, one which showed the full disk of the moon. I held up the camera to the girl to let her see the pictures on its screen. She took a good look at it, turned to take a look at the moon in the sky, and then took another look at the screen. The moon it's so small. I didn't know what exactly she was trying to get at here. The pictures are small here, but they look much bigger on the computer screen. I tried explaining, but it just seemed to confuse her even more, so I decided to change the topic. Did you grow up around here? I did. When I was growing up, these weren't all the houses and buildings on the island. The only thing on the island were farms, and the farms were huge. Only 4 families lived here, and between us, we owned all the land on the island. My family was one of the 4. We owned the southern end of the island where we first met. We hadn't cleared all of our land, but we had a large enough farm that we could grow the food we needed and sell some at the market. I didn't know the island's population was so small so recently. I knew that Turians could grow a population, but so quickly. Did you go to school on the mainland then? Once in a while. When we took the ferry over to sell our produce, we would spend a few days in school being tested. But most of the time we were homeschooled. Mama would teach us reading and writing, and Papa would teach us maths and things. At least before they died. A twist on the story, alright. With this, her smile went away. It was obvious that it was a hard subject for her to talk about. Okay, I asked about her parents. I dropped the subject. Yeah, that would be a good idea. It looked like if I asked her to continue, she would break out in tears. So I decided to let it go and instead just started walking down the beach again. I don't know how much time passed until we spoke again. Maybe it was an hour, maybe less, maybe longer. That's really creepy though. That's stalkerish, to be honest. Okay, we slowly made our way around the island with me walking a few feet behind her. If it had been someone else, I probably would have taken my leave and headed back for home. Yeah, no kidding. But there was something about this girl that made me want to stay with her. An aura of some sort, of beauty, of tragedy, of loneliness. Perhaps some combinations of all of them and more. And so, we kept silently walking down the moonlit beach. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I tried once again to strike up a conversation. So, is there anything you want to do with your life? For a few seconds, she said nothing, as if I had said something wrong. But then she began to speak. Once, I thought I knew. When I was younger, it was like my life planned out for me already. I would follow in my mother's footsteps. I'd help out on the farm for a few years. Even when we were young, we had chores, but when we finished our schooling, we could help out even more. Eventually, I'd meet a nice boy. I didn't know who at the time. Thinking back, it probably would have been one of those Miller boys. They were around my age. We would get married and start a farm of our own. We raised a family together, a few girls, and I always wanted a boy, because all I had was sisters. Now, however, her smile vanished as she let the thought trail off. After a little while, she changed the subject back to me. What about you? What do you plan to do in the future? Her question took me a little off guard, both because I wasn't expecting her to ask me the same thing, and because I never really thought much about my future. She smiled a little at my obvious confusion. Well, I'm spending this summer visiting my family. When it's over, I'll be going off to school. Aren't you a little old to be in school? Well, state school. I'm going to be attending university in the fall. I don't know what I'll do after that. I don't even know what classes I'll be taking or exactly what my major will be. I figure that when I'm not at school, I'll be living with my parents for a while. Eventually, I'll get a job and move out. As to settling down and start a family, well, I have no idea about that, when that's going to happen. I haven't really thought much about it yet. I don't think many people have their lives as planned as you. I think most people are just sort of winging it. As this, she let out a quiet laugh. Is there something wrong with that? No, nothing at all. In fact, I think I envy you. Why? Well, you can do anything you want with your life. You can go anywhere you want. Wait a second, I'm at a confusion. Am I a boy or a girl? I kinda didn't remember which gender I was. Alright, back to the story. Some people would think that having too many choices is some sort of curse or a burden. But I think it's just freedom, and that's a good thing. I think it's nice to live a life where your future is open, where you can do anything you want. Once again, I didn't know what to say, and for a second I thought we'd go back walking in silence. But instead of letting the conversation falter, she kept it going. So what do you do for fun? Lots of things. I like drawing, listening to music, and watching cartoons and football on TV. Exactly what I would answer at my oral presentation at some graduation thing. Football? She repeated the term slowly as if she knew both words, but had never heard them together in the way before. Yeah, football, you know, the sport. You've heard of it, right? She shook her head to indicate that she hadn't. How can I begin to describe it? There are two teams on the field at once. One of them has the ball. The center hikes the ball to the quarterback. The quarterback can either run, throw the ball to another player, hand it to another guy, or try to run with it. Everything guys seemed to confuse her even more. But I didn't know what else to do, so I just kept on going. The other team tries to stop them by tackling the player with the other ball. If they can move the ball 10 yards in 4 downs, then the other team gets it. Alright, this is an American game, obviously, because football is generally meaning soccer in Europe. It was around this part of my explanation that she broke out giggling. Now that I look back on it, my explanation was sort of absurd. As so, we passed the night talking about things. Mostly I talked and she listened. Sometimes she would ask me questions and I would answer them the best I could. Many times that wouldn't be enough and she would break out laughing as I fumbled through another explanation. We spent the rest of the night like this, talking and laughing as we made our way around the island. Hi! By dawn we made it almost all the way around the island, to a cliff not far from where we had first met. The girl started to climb back to the beach below, but I stopped her. I thought we could stay here and watch the sun come up. To my surprise, her reaction to my explanation was one of the shock. It's sunrise already? I have to be going! This came as a surprise to me. We had been getting along well, and now she was about to run off. She must have seen the disappointment on my face as she changed her tone as she elaborated. It's not you I like. It's just that I can't. I understand. I said not really understanding anything. As she started walking away, I searched my mind to see if there was anything I could say to keep her there just a little longer. Suddenly, I realized that there was something I'd forgotten to ask her. What is your name? I realized that throughout the entire night I never asked what her name was. A bad habit of mine is that I can have a whole conversation without knowing someone's name. So I asked her, almost shouting the question to her. She stopped walking, turned back to me and smiled. It's Mary. Mary Harper. Okay. Is that a clue? At that moment the sun cleared the horizon. Its brilliance blinded me, and I reflexively closed my eyes. I've seen the sunrise many times, and before and since, but I've never seen it as bright as it was that time. Hi. When I opened my eyes again, the girl was gone. I didn't know why she went, how she had left so quickly, or where she had gotten off to. The one thing I didn't know was that I wanted to meet her again. Having found out her name, I proceeded to look her up on the web. Of course, the name Mary Harper gave me thousands of hits, but after I narrowed it down to the local area, I got nothing at all. You know the first rule, whoever isn't on the internet is not existent. According to the online phone book, no one named Harper lived on the island. Maybe I imagined this all by myself. Alright. Hi. After getting some sleep, I went to the library trying to find out more about her. Knowing she said that she was from around here, I took out a book on the history of North Sand Island. The only thing I found when I looked up Harper in the book was the story of Harper family that lived on the island in the 70s. They were wiped out by an epidemic that killed almost everyone on the island in 1790. Only a few boys escaped to tell the tale. It left the island empty, and it wasn't until after the Civil War that people settled here again. I looked through the book and through the records of people living on the island, and after it was resettled. Despite hours of searching, I couldn't find anyone named Harper. That night, I went out to the beach where I first saw her, hoping to meet her again. I spent the entire night there, but she didn't show up. I tried again the next night, and the night after that, every night for 2 weeks. But after the first night, I never saw her again. Ah, that's kinda sad. And I never forgot her either. Ending 2, history. What the hell? Created by... oh, this is the ending. Okay. That was awesome! With the capital letters. Alright. I'm not sure what just happened. Okay. Let me piece together some things. So, my theory that this girl was a ghost, that was my wildest theory. This girl was a ghost. And no, that would be stupid because that way I couldn't see her. Maybe she was part of my imagination. I'm not sure. We would need a backstory to the girl I was playing a little bit more. Anyway, maybe there's an alternative ending to it if I choose other options in the conversations. Not sure. Anyway, Moonlight looks really awesome. Try it out for yourself and see the alternative ending if you haven't already played it through. Or if you watch me playing through this, then play it for yourself to get to the alternate ending. Anyway, the art was beautiful, man. It was awesome. Amazing. Really gorgeous. Props to everyone who made this and porting it to Linux. So, what else to say? Okay. Not sure. This was one heck of a game. It wasn't really a game, but it was awesome anyway. So, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that I can play more games like these in the future. So, thanks again. There's gonna be a link in the description of the GameJolt site. So, see you soon in the next video.